Members, banned books are not new, but they have gained new relevance in an escalating culture war that puts books about racism, sexuality, and gender identity at risk in public schools and libraries. The books most frequently challenged tend to have certain themes in common. Books that have to do with LGBTQ topics or characteristics, books that discuss sexual assault, books that have to do with sex, abortion, teen pregnancy, or puberty, books that have to do with sex education, books that have to do with race and racism, or that center on the protagonists of color, books that have to do with history, specifically that of African Americans. Groups that monitor censorship, including the ACLU, PEN America, American Library Association, and the National Coalition Against Censorship, say that since the killing of George Floyd, we are now seeing Black and brown authors increasingly becoming the target of would-be censors. From July 2021 to July 2022, PEN America, America Index of School
Members, please take your conversations outside the
book
rail.
bans lists 2,532 instances of individuals' books being banned, affecting 1,648 unique book titles. The 1,648 book titles are by 1,261 different authors, 290 illustrators, and 18 translators, impacting the literary, scholarly, and creative work of 1,553 people altogether. Among the 1,648 unique books banned titles in the index, 674 book titles, 41% explicitly address LGBTQ+ themes or have similar characteristics. 659 banned books titles, 40%, contain protagonists or prominent secondary characters of color. 338 book titles, or 21%, directly address race and racism. 357 banned book titles, or 22%, contain sexual content. 161 banned book titles, or 10%, have themes related to rights and activism. 141 banned books, or 9%, are either biography, autobiography, or memoir, and 64 banned books, or 4%, include characters and stories that reflect religious minorities, such as Jewish, Muslims, and other faith traditions. Members, my amendment is simple. It requires the Commissioner of TEA to report annual to the legislature regarding the books and educational materials being removed from Texas public schools and charter schools. And with that, I move adoption.
The chair recognizes Mr. Patterson in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, our perfecting amendment made clear that this is not about anything other than sexually explicit material. And I would also mention that in preparation for the committee hearing that we had, the Public Education Committee, we went back and reviewed information about the authors of the bills, the nearly 3 dozen bills that I've challenged in Frisco ISD, went all the way to the school board with them. Almost 81% of those authors were white. 87% were straight. This is not a race issue or anything like that. This is a problem with sexually explicit material. And so I would ask you to vote no on this amendment.
The chair recognizes Mr. Reynolds to close on the amendment.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Weiner, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for some questions?
The gentleman yield for questions.
Yes, I will yield.
Gentleman
for some
yields.
questions.
Thank you, Representative Reynolds. We both know there is a long history of book bans being implemented in a discriminatory manner. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And so if the intent of this bill is not to be a discriminatory impact, my read is your report would create a fantastic backstop to make sure that the intent of the bill is matched with what happens in reality. Would you
Absolutely.
agree?
Unequivocally.
And have we seen any high-profile attacks on books of people of different genders or different races or different sexual orientations recently?
Absolutely. We've seen one of the world-renowned authors, including Toni Morrison, and many, many others, countless, too many to even name right now. But we've seen a heightened movement that is happened since the death of George Floyd.
Are you concerned that there might be a different standard of what is considered sexually explicit or sexually relevant in books that feature LGBTQ characters or characters of color than in books that feature straight white characters?
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you for your amendment. I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you for those questions. Members, for the very reasons that we just talked about between myself and Representative Zwiener from the front and back mic, we need to have the TEA commissioner to look at these books and give a report to the legislature. We want transparency and we want accountability. And with that, I ask for your favorable consideration and I move passage.
Mr. Reynolds sends an amendment. The amendment is not acceptable to the author. Mr. Reynolds has requested a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Patterson voting nay, Mr. Reynolds voting aye. Mr. Rosenthal voting aye. Ms. Hinojosa voting aye. Mr. Tallarico voting aye. Mr. Goldman voting nay. Have all members voted? There being 61 ayes and 84 nays, the amendment fails to adopt. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.